If you were like me, sometimes this time of year you can catch yourself saying, if I have to deal with one more thing, I think I'm just going to scream. That can happen sometimes when it comes to the overwhelming feeling of trying to relocate, whether you're selling your own house or perhaps a house that has been in your family. So our next guests hear this very often, not just during the holiday season, and they'd like to let you know how they are here to help. You can tell it's the holiday season for me because I can't even get my words out this morning. We've got Thomas DeMoss and Lee Gates here from Chattanooga Property Solutions. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to be here.
It's a true thing. I mean, sometimes just having to tackle the closet in your house that's way too cluttered is enough to have to deal with, much less putting a house on the market. So what do y'all step in to help do?
Well, I can relate to that because I don't like to work on my house either.
Pretty real.
But yeah, what we'd like to talk about, like we mentioned before, we're coming to a new year, so I think it's time for some of the people that we've been able to help. We were able to give people new beginnings, and I mentioned off air the property we just bought in Lafayette. Yes, we're Chattanooga Property Solutions, but we do buy houses in North Georgia all the way down into Lafayette. Lee worked literally a miracle with this family who had this house. It was her brother's house. She had owned it for tried to keep it up for about 3 years. Yeah. And they were, 2 weeks away from foreclosure?
It was a pretty dire situation, yeah. And we've seen those scenarios countless times before, and it is really hard in that family situation to work with a bank who seems to have really very little consideration.
Yeah. Okay, so can we get in the weeds on that one for just a minute?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You probably got a lot of people's attention. So here this sister was living her own life. She had her own obligations.
Absolutely.
And this house kind of came to her through the loss of her brother.
Yeah. It was actually more than that. She had taken over his business, which was a great business. And it made a lot of sense for them to continue that. But she'd taken over his business. She had her own household. She was trying to care for the extended family. And then there was that house in Lafayette. And a great house, a really, really cool house, but vacant and needed a lot of work.
So obviously, if you're going to be foreclosed on, there have been enough warnings issued to you from the banks to let you know that you've got to deal with this, but it just snowballed quickly?
It did, and I'll tell you what, one of the things that we run into most of all is just folks that are faced with a situation like that, foreclosure, tax delinquent, something they don't really know what to do. Sometimes they just don't do anything. And what we like to tell people is just give us a call. The very least we can do is point you in the right direction. We tell people if we can't buy your house, we're going to help you sell it. We generally do. We want to treat people well. I mean, this is an evidence of the situation here. We treated her well, and like I said, we're big on reviews. We love people to say good things about us.
So okay, but there's a difference in having y'all come in and buy the house versus listing a house for sale. Listing requires a little bit of effort on your part, not your part, but the other person's part. So if y'all can come in and just turnkey say, look, we'll take the burden from you. We'll give you X amount of money. That's sort of what you do.
Absolutely.
I think a really good example of that is, this is literally recent. This is last week. So there are 2 houses in Saudi Daisy that I've been driving by for years. And ironically, the owners of both of them called us in the last 10 days. One called me on a Thursday night. They're both vacant, by the way. They called me on a Thursday night. I took a look at it that evening. We got the paperwork rolling, and we closed Tuesday of this week.
Oh, wow.
So Thursday of last week. So 5 days, I think. A vacant house, nothing catastrophic coming at them other than they wanted the resources from that to put into their new home. Made a lot of sense. Went smoothly. Another gal called us that same week. She had signed a contract over email with an outfit that we think is from New York. We're not sure. They'd given her, this is a house I've been driving by for years. I know the house is vacant, needs a lot of work. They'd given her an offer that I thought was fantastic. When she told me what they'd offered over email, it was brilliant. Well, that was about a month ago. And she called us because she was stuck. She couldn't get out, but they were telling her they weren't going to close. And she was running up on a really dire deadline coming January 1st that she couldn't avoid. That didn't have anything to do with that house, but she thought she had her problems solved.
By selling the house, she could,
And she's stuck. And so we're working really hard to help get her unstuck, but we see that all the time. And so the value of working with someone whose office you can drop by or whose cell phone you can just call counts.
Right. So, okay, how does it work then if somebody does call you and they either have a vacant house or the house they're even currently in that perhaps has fallen? I'm guessing usually y'all are seeing houses that are kind of in some disrepair.
All types.
Yeah.
All types?
It runs the spectrum.
Yeah, they really are. We've gone from the house that's turnkey to the house that literally you have to gut.
We've bought houses that were new construction,
Yeah.
and they finished painting 2 months prior.
Yeah.
Everything in between.
So are y'all realtors?
I am a licensed
Okay.
real estate agent. We do, and that is a piece of our business, but it's not our primary business. We try to make people that want to sell houses the non-traditional way easy.
Right. Is it customary to have that quick closing time like you had on the one?
Where it's called for, yes. Believe it or not, more often, people want a little more time than that.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And the beauty is we don't have to be in a rush because typically we're not moving our families into the houses that we're buying.
Right.
And so to your question, you said, what happens when you call?
Yeah.
The first thing I'm going to do is try and ask some good questions, and I'm going to try and understand. Because there's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to homes, not just the money. And if I can do a good job of understanding, hopefully we can bend all the flexibility we have at our disposal to helping that person the best.
We had somebody on earlier this week, and she has like a little vintage store in Chattanooga, and she sells things that, honestly, to look at some of the things, I would think, wow, I can't believe somebody held on to that, and that there's value in it. But there is, if people want things.
Absolutely.
But the same can be true, I guess, for property, that no matter what the condition of a piece of property is, it still has its value.
It's hard. It's
Absolutely.
hard to let go of things that have meant so much to you. And like I said, I think we do a really good job. We care for people well. We can walk them through the situation. We can give them a path that they can see, clarity that they can focus on, and a solution that's custom tailor fit for them.
Right.
And I don't know that we can say we're smarter than the average bear. The reason we can do what Thomas says is because we've done that 520 something times.
Right.
We're not smart. We've just been there before.
Well, and so you mentioned Lafayette. Where area do you cover?
We usually cover about a 60-mile radius of Chattanooga. Now,
Okay.
we've helped folks that are outside of that, but that's kind of our area of expertise, if you will. That's where we have our resources. So.
And
It's our
if
home.
you've got the property here, like maybe it's a situation where a parent has died,
Yeah.
and the kids live in North Carolina, can they still use you?
Absolutely.
All the time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, here's where you will find them. It's Chattanooga Property Solutions on Hickson Pike. 454-3070 is the phone number. ChattanoogaPropertySolutions.com is the website. You're going to get either one of them when you call. They'll happily come out and talk to you. And if you don't want to close in 5 days, they won't make you do it.
You don't have to.